Hello and welcome to Uzbekistan World News, and my name is Bahram Kafarov. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev has proposed resuming regular flights between the member states of the Eurasian Economic Union. He announced this initiative at a regular meeting of the Supreme Eurasian Economic Council on Friday. Given the stabilization of epidemiological situation, the vaccination process, we think that time has come to restore regular air and rail traffic. We are ready to actively cooperate with the Eurasian Economic Commission and its member states on the removal of barriers and further rapprochement of non-tariff measures to regulate trade, said Mirziyoyev. According to him, the transport and transit sectors are catalysts for deepening economic ties. Uzbek MPs on May 20 heard the information of the Accounting Chamber and the report of the Ministry of Investment and Foreign Trade on the investment project, which is underway at the expense of a loan of $100 million from the World Bank and a state budget fund of $24.1 million.
The Accounting Chamber said that as of March the 1st of this year, only 1% or $944,800 of the total allocated funds were raised. At the same time, due to the inefficient project management and incorrect organization of work, financial mistakes and shortcomings were identified in the amount of $439,700. Also, 67 of the 128 roadmap activities have not been implemented so far. MPs have also criticized the cases identified in the investment project Integrated Development of the Medium-Sized Cities, implemented at the expense of external debt.
Uzbekistan's foreign trade turnover in the first quarter decreased by 3.5% to $10.3 billion year-on-year, according to the country's statistical committee. The volume of exports fell by 19.1% to $3.48 billion. Imports on the country expanded by 7% to $6.8 billion.
The reporting period saw a passive foreign trade balance at $3.3 billion. China remained the biggest trade partner, followed by Russia, Kazakhstan, Turkey, South Korea, Kyrgyzstan and Afghanistan. Trade with CIS comprised $4 billion, 4.9% up year-on-year. The structure of exports was dominated by industrial goods, food products and chemicals, among other items. The country exported 327,900 tons of agricultural products worth some $186 million. In particular, it sold $123.4 million worth of vegetables, $29.3 million worth of fruits and berries, $16.2 million worth of dried grapes, etc. Uzbekistan so far has trade relations with 156 countries of the world.
Abu Dhabi future energy company PJSC, which operates under the Mazda brand, has won 2 tenders for the construction of photovoltaic power plants in Uzbekistan. The press service of the Ministry of Investment and Foreign Trade reported on Thursday. One of the plants is to be built in the Kyrgyzstan district of Samarkand region, while the second will be located in Gallaral district of Jizak region. Both plants would have a combined capacity of 440 megawatts. Mazda's offer was considered as most reasonable. It has offered a tariff of 1.823 cents per kilowatt hour for the project in Jizak and 1.791 cents for Samarkand plant, the ministry said in a statement. Both projects, worth nearly $400 million, are set to be commissioned by the end of 2022. The investor is also committed to building a solar power plant, as well as new 220 kilowatt substation. As part of these projects, Uzbekistan intends to deploy up to 1 gigawatt of cost-effective and environmentally friendly solar generation. By 2030, this figure is expected to reach 5 gigawatts. According to Bahram Umarbekov, Deputy Director of Project Office of Uzbekistan's Ministry of Energy, in general, the tariffs are expected to stay at the same level in the Republic and no decrease is projected, as the tariff formula has many variables, resulting in the final cost based on transporting and delivery of power to the final consumer.
So, as I said, the efficiency levels at most of the gas turbine fleet that we have is very low, as I said, around 30%. And we expect in the next several years to decommission those old turbines and replace them with CCGT turbines, which are very efficient and they utilize twice less gas. And taking into account this information and the fact that current operational costs, non-fuel operational costs at existing turbines, stations, power stations, and in new CCGT turbines will be around the same level, we expect that when in the future we bring CCGT power plants with their own cost structure but utilizing less gas, and comparing them with the current structure where high operation costs and high fuel usage, we expect the costs, the tariffs, to be around the same level. Around the same level. Structurally, there may be some changes that, currently the household tariffs are very low, and possibly in the future they may go up because there are higher costs associated with distributing that power to the final consumers. So that cost actually should be borne by households. Because of the structural changes, some tariff increase may take place, but generally the tariffs are expected to stay at the same level.
Mazda has already been running several alternative energy projects in Uzbekistan. The company is building a 100 megawatt photovoltaic plant in Navai, a 500 megawatt plant in Zarafshan, a 40 kilowatt small solar plant in the Tashkent region, and more. Social progress in Uzbekistan ranked 102nd out of 163, according to Social Progress Imperative. Personal rights scored very low with only 49.9 points. Among the CIS countries, Uzbekistan comes after Russia, Belarus, Armenia and Kazakhstan. The country's performance is followed only by Kyrgyzstan. The top 3 countries include Norway, Denmark and Finland. South Sudan closed the rating being the worst. The index doesn't consider economic development. Among 50 indicators, basic human needs scored 80.3 points in Uzbekistan. The basics of well-being, such as access to basic knowledge, level of health care, environmental sustainability, gains 64.6 points. With a fortune of almost $19 billion, Uzbek-born Alisher Usmanov has risen to 6th place in the ranking of richest people in Great Britain, The Times reports. Usmanov is also one of the most generous. Over the past 20 years, he has donated more than $6 billion to charity. Most of the money is channeled towards Russia and Uzbekistan. His wealth, as noted in Forbes, grew by $5 billion in 2020. Being the founder and main shareholder of USM Holdings, Usmanov ranked 7th in Russia and 99th in the world ranking. Uzbekistan plans to import 100,000 doses of Comirnaty coronavirus vaccine soon to vaccinate 20% of the population, head of the Sanitary and Epidemiological Surveillance and Public Health Service Bahadur Yusupaliyev has announced. The vaccine is jointly produced by the American company Pfizer and the German company BioNTech. This vaccine shows a very high success rate of 95% in its clinical trials against any symptomatic infections. Also, it works more or less across all age groups. In Uzbekistan, as of 21st May, there have been 98,164 confirmed cases overall, 93,633 recoveries and 680 deaths.
Taiwan is pressing the U.S. for help with COVID-19 vaccines as it struggles to contain a worrying new outbreak. Taiwan reported several straight days of triple-digit infections this week after largely keeping the virus at bay for months. That's led to its stock of vaccines running out rapidly and only 1% of its population vaccinated. To date, only about 700,000 shots have arrived, all of which come from AstraZeneca. But the battle against the virus there and its lack of vaccines is complicated by its politics. China, which claims the democratic island as its own, has offered its domestically developed vaccines to Taiwan through the COVAX vaccine sharing program. But Chinese vaccines are prohibited under Taiwanese law. Taiwanese Health Minister Chen Shih-chung said Friday he had spoken to his American counterpart Xavier Becerra about medical cooperation. Becerra, in turn, said he would forward the matter onto U.S. President Joe Biden. It's the highest level contact between the two governments under the Biden administration. China's foreign ministry quickly condemned the move on Friday, claiming that Taiwan was using COVID-19 as a tool for political manipulation. The U.S. has no formal diplomatic relations with Taiwan, and Beijing regularly condemns any high-level meetings between Washington and Taipei. Taiwan has said it expects to receive a total of over 1 million AstraZeneca shots under COVAX.
The leaders of wealthy nations and big drug makers promised on Friday to do more to bridge the startling divide in fighting COVID-19 with an increased flow of badly needed vaccines to poorer regions. During a virtual G20 Global Health Summit in Rome on Friday, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen,
bringing this pandemic under control everywhere,
said Europe would donate at least 100 million doses to poorer nations by the end of the year. The EU also promised 1 billion euros to build vaccination manufacturing hubs in Africa. Lavishly funded mass inoculation campaigns are helping many wealthy countries slash infections, but few shots have reached less developed nations where the virus still rages sometimes uncontrollably, drawing accusations of vaccine apartheid. According to the World Health Organization, to date, some 1.53 billion doses have been administered globally, but only around 1% of them in Africa.
We are now more than a year into the pandemic.
U.S. philanthropist Bill Gates appeared virtually at the G20 Health Summit and called for more equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines across the world.
If we do not close this immense gap, more people will die needlessly. There are two immediate actions countries can take: share dollars and doses.
Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi urged countries to pitch in.
As we prepare for the next pandemic, our priority must be to ensure that we all overcome the current one together. We must vaccinate the world and do it fast.
But there was no consensus on a contested push by the United States and other nations for pharmaceutical companies to waive valuable vaccine patents. This suggestion has been snubbed by some European nations who have instead called for the removal of U.S. trade barriers that they consider the main bottleneck. Pfizer, however, pledged to make available 1 billion cut-price doses this year to poorer nations, with another 1 billion vaccines provided next year. And Johnson & Johnson promised 200 million doses of its vaccine to COVAX, a vaccine-sharing program co-led by the WHO.
Today I've been honored to welcome to the White House President Moon.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in visited the White House on Friday, joining President Joe Biden in hailing the strength of the U.S.-South Korea alliance after the strains of the Trump era. Both leaders also expressed a desire to engage in North Korea diplomacy, trying to reduce tensions over Pyongyang's nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs.
My team consulted closely with President Moon's team throughout the process of our DPRK review, and we both are deeply concerned about the situation. Our two nations also share a willingness to engage diplomatically with the DPRK to take pragmatic steps that will reduce tensions as we move toward our ultimate goal of denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
Additionally, the two allies said they would work together to combat the COVID-19 pandemic, rebuild the global economy, and address climate change. Earlier in the day, both leaders joined together to award the Medal of Honor to 94-year-old Korean War veteran Ralph Puckett, a retired U.S. Army colonel. Puckett was commended for his valor in a 1950 battle over a strategic hill, fighting Chinese troops in North Korea. During statements, Moon called Puckett's sacrifice commendable.
Without the sacrifice of veterans, including Colonel Puckett and the 8th Army Range Company, freedom and democracy we endure today couldn't have blossomed in Korea.
This marked the first time a foreign leader had attended a Medal of Honor ceremony. Biden called it a testament to the strength of the U.S.-South Korea alliance.
In our view, this is the art, I should say, of seeking common ground.
The White House said on Friday it reduced its infrastructure bill from $2.25 trillion to $1.7 trillion in an effort to find common ground with Republican lawmakers.
This proposal exhibits a willingness to come down in size, giving on some areas that are important to the president, otherwise they wouldn't have been in the proposal, while also staying firm in areas that are most vital to rebuilding our infrastructure and industries of the future.
The move, announced by White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, represented a desire by President Joe Biden's team to engage with the opposition party on infrastructure. Still, the two sides remained far apart, and one person familiar with the matter said Senate Republicans did not view the new proposal as a significant improvement. Psaki gave few details but told reporters some areas where funding was cut.
The proposal also agreed to reduce the funding request for broadband to match the Republican offer and to reduce the proposed investment in roads, bridges, and major projects to come closer to the number proposed by the senators. This is all in the spirit of finding common ground.
The White House plan, which Republicans have said is too expensive, would seek to address climate change and social issues such as elder care, in addition to revitalizing traditional transportation infrastructure. It would cover the cost of the investments by raising taxes on U.S. corporations and wealthy Americans. Top Republican lawmakers have said they would not agree to a tax hike.
Meet Napsugar, or sunshine in Hungarian. Her mother, Silvia Bedonoj, only found out she had given birth to her more than a month later when she was brought out of an induced coma by doctors. She was heavily pregnant when she tested positive for COVID-19 late last year and was sent home from a hospital to quarantine. But as her condition worsened, she was rushed back in.
I had to go back to the hospital immediately because I was very ill. I couldn't breathe. It turned out that it was pneumonia.
She was transferred to Budapest, where Napsugar was born by caesarean section. Silvia was put in the intensive care unit on a ventilator, then an artificial lung, and finally was put into an induced coma. While she was in hospital, her husband Joseph cared for their newborn daughter, fearing he would receive bad news. But at Christmas, his phone rang.
És akkor hívott a doktor úr, hogy a feleségem üljön nekem.
I got a call from the doctor who said my wife was trying to make contact with me. I was surprised. How could this be? The doctor said that they woke her up and she was using her eyes to try and communicate. The next day I went to pay her a visit. She was awake, and when I asked her something, she would answer me with her eyes.
És a szemvel tudott kommunikálni. Amit én kérdeztem tőle, bólogatott, hogy...
New Year's Eve 2020 was the first day Silvia remembers being awake, but she said she still didn't know what happened to her and was pointing to her stomach to ask when she gave birth, unable to talk because of the ventilator. Her doctor, Bella Mercalli, said her complicated case is unique in that it was seemingly solved through the use of an artificial lung. Although still suffering from side effects, Silvia is making a good recovery at home with baby Napsugar by her side.
Would you live in a house built by robots? Swiss engineering company ABB is putting its robots to work on construction sites to help the company's robotics business recover after it was badly hit by the downturn in the automotive market in recent years. ABB currently uses robots to install elevators, automate the production of components for prefabricated homes, or weld together steel reinforcement baskets to strengthen buildings. Sami Attia is the president of robotics and discrete automation at ABB.
We are developing new solutions for the construction industry because there is a perfect storm of high demand and the need for sustainable solutions, and also lack of people who are willing to work in this dangerous and dull, work.
While the company's sales in the automotive market are estimated to grow by 3 to 5% in the coming years, Attia told Reuters that the company's pivot to construction looks to be a stronger bet.
This is a high growth area for us. It is, I would say, where automotive was 40 to 50 years ago. So low density of automation. So we expect 20 to 30% growth. It's still on a small base, but the industry will have high demand for robotization and automation to improve their quality and waste in this industry.
ABB surveyed nearly 2,000 construction companies in Europe, China and the US, and 81% of them said they would start using or increase their use of construction robots in the next 10 years. Selling robot systems can cost from $100,000 up to $1 million. Attia said he expected a recovery in the Americas and Europe after orders fell in the first quarter, and the, quote, fantastic growth in China to continue.
Many customers are telling us even there will be a renaissance of the type of work in construction. It's going to be more automation, more software driven, and so on. So it's part of also revisionizing this industry's type of work towards more in software based skills.
A choppy session to end a volatile week as investors head out for the weekend with mostly upbeat economic data. Business activity picked up in May according to a private survey. Sales of previously owned homes dropped last month because there weren't enough homes to sell, driving median home prices to a record high. The Dow gained 123 points on Friday, the S&P 500 slipped 3, and the Nasdaq was down 64. Ken Kamen of Mercadian Asset Management.
If you're looking for the negative and the positive, is just people wondering whether that means things are going to overheat and the Fed is going to have to move sooner than most people think. I think the market, for the most part, is baked in that the Fed is not going to do anything this year and change their stance. So I think today's activity, we should all just take with a smile and say things continue as they were.
Bitcoin-related stocks were big losers after China's Vice Premier Liu He said his government was going to crack down on Bitcoin mining and trading. Coinbase, the world's largest publicly traded Bitcoin exchange, shed nearly 4%. The price of Bitcoin has lost about a quarter of its value this week alone. While many national retailers are getting rid of mask mandates for employees, Gap Inc. is not. The parent of Gap, Old Navy, Banana Republic, and Athleta stores said employees will have to continue wearing masks. It also asked customers who are not fully vaccinated to wear masks when shopping. Gap shares were little changed ahead of its quarterly results next week. Boeing plans to boost output for the 737 MAX by the fall of next year, industry sources told Reuters. Boeing declined to confirm. The comeback for Boeing's fastest-selling jet after 2 deadly crashes forced a global grounding has been hobbled by safety issues. Boeing closed the day up by more than 3%.
So far, these have been the latest news for today. Goodbye. Take care.